Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're focusing on something that's undergoing a massive, really critical transformation, and that's the world of language services. We're going to be doing a deep dive into this huge quality shift happening in regulated fields. Specifically, the growing, I'd say, intense demand for credentialed interpreters. We're moving way beyond just needing someone who's bilingual. I mean, for decades, the whole conversation around multilingual access really started and ended with one thing, right?
Just find someone.
Exactly. Finding anyone who could speak the language. But, those days are pretty much over.
They have to be.
Institutions getting federal funding, healthcare systems, legal bodies, they're all waking up to the fact that just, grabbing a bilingual staff member from down the hall isn't a strategy. It just doesn't hold up under scrutiny. So our mission today is to really unpack the stakes here. What are the legal, the operational, and the ethical issues at play? What happens when this kind of high-stakes communication depends on someone who's untrained?
And that's really the core of it. We're moving from a conversation about simple availability to one about accountability and documentation, hard documentation. The organizations we've been looking at are finally realizing that when you're talking about major decisions, a medical diagnosis, a legal ruling,
An immigration interview.
right, you absolutely need verifiable trust in that entire communication pipeline.
Okay, let's unpack this. For so long, the whole thing was reactive. A patient shows up, a client walks in, and it's a scramble to just get an interpreter. The new question, the mandatory question, is totally different. It's proactive. It's all about risk.
It is. The question is now, can we trust the quality, the accuracy, and can we document that trust for legal purposes?
And this isn't just some nice-to-have academic idea. This is being driven by serious risk.
Severe risk mitigation, absolutely. And we see this demand for accountability most aggressively in critical public services. We're talking about highly regulated places, hospitals, clinical settings, where medical consent is everything.
Behavioral health services, too, which depends completely on nuance.
Exactly. And courtrooms, legal services. I mean, people's entire futures are on the line. Yeah. And of course, any government-funded agency that has to meet those strict federal mandates on equity.
The sources are so clear on this. The consequences of cutting corners, they're immediate and they compound. You're looking at a misdiagnosis in a hospital because one tiny, subtle word was missed.
Or in a legal setting, you get an invalid statement entered into the record.
Which just compromises the whole due process.
And it goes beyond just those single errors. Think about the system-wide failure. Incorrect eligibility decisions for, essential services.
Huge delays in getting government help.
And at the end of the day, non-compliance penalties that can cost an organization hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars.
Not to mention the impact on community trust. If the most vulnerable people feel like their information is being handled casually or just, inaccurately, they're going to pull back.
Absolutely. And that's the reality that just kills that old idea of, oh, my cousin speaks Spanish, he can help. It's just not an acceptable solution anymore. When you're documenting a complex mental health history or making sure a patient understands a life-saving medication, the risk is just too high. It demands a professional, verifiable standard.
That brings us right to the core of it. If just being bilingual is out, what does credentialed actually mean? What are the specific competencies? Because I think for a lot of people listening, it can feel like this jargon-filled black box. So let's just address the misconception head on. This is not just about passing a language test.
Not at all. That's a vital point. It's about proving you can operate safely and ethically within a professional environment. The sources really emphasize that a credentialed interpreter isn't just a language expert. They're a specialist trained for a specific sector's risk model.
So can you break that down for us? What are those non-negotiable training requirements?
Okay, so if you're interpreting in a hospital, you must have a specialized medical interpreting qualification. And that isn't just knowing the names of body parts, it's knowing how to interpret complex surgical instructions or pharmacology.
And if you're in a courtroom?
Then you need legal or court interpretation training. You have to understand the immense difference between he said and he alleged.
And this goes way beyond just the technical words, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the need for something like trauma-informed communication practices.
Oh, that's huge.
When you're dealing with victims of violence or immigrants who have fled persecution or clients in a mental health crisis, an untrained speaker could easily use language that re-traumatizes someone.
And shut down the entire conversation. A credentialed professional is trained to avoid those pitfalls, to keep the dialogue safe and neutral.
Exactly. Then you get into the real bedrock issues of just professional conduct.
Like confidentiality and privacy rules.
Yeah.
Especially with IPA.
An untrained staff member might not think twice about passing on protected health information through, say, a text message.
A credentialed interpreter knows the legal and ethical boundaries of that data. They understand the entire data flow.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's that an interpreter has to understand the ethics, boundaries, and neutrality of the role.
Yes. Their job is to facilitate communication. Period.
Not to advise, not to explain, not to help.
If a bilingual staff member disagrees with a doctor's diagnosis, they might accidentally insert their own opinion or bias.
And that corrupts the entire record.
While the credentialed interpreter is trained to maintain absolute neutrality, they protect the integrity of that high-stakes moment. So that's the strategic difference. A bilingual speaker is fluent in a language. A trained, credentialed interpreter is fluent in the rules, the ethics, and the risks of that professional environment.
And that shift is what's driving this entire industry overhaul. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, this isn't just organizations choosing to do better. It feels like they're being forced to adopt this standard. What are the big pressures here?
Our sources point to three major, and they're all kind of intertwined, forces that are just completely reshaping the industry.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first, and probably the most powerful driver, is regulatory pressure and legal risk. For any organization getting federal or state money, compliance is simply not negotiable.
And we should be specific here. You're talking about things like Title VI of the Civil Rights Act.
Exactly. Title VI is critical because it ties your federal funding directly to providing meaningful language access. It's not optional.
And the ADA for ASL and deaf access interpreters?
Yes, and of course the big one everyone knows, HAPA. For confidentiality, if an unqualified person handles patient files during a session, that's a massive legal exposure for the organization.
So credentialing is basically a risk mitigation strategy.
It's insurance against massive liability. It proves the organization did its due diligence.
Okay, that's force one. What's the second?
The second is the increasing linguistic diversity in our communities. It's not enough anymore to just have a generic Spanish speaker on staff.
You mean the need for specialists, not generalists?
That's right. The complexity of migration means organizations have to support languages and dialects that need real specialization.
So give us some examples.
Well, think about Haitian Creole, which is very different from French, or different regional dialects of Spanish. A word in Mexico can mean something totally different in Puerto Rico.
And then you have major languages like Mandarin, Arabic, Tagalog.
All requiring experts trained for those specific clinical or legal contexts, not just someone who can have a conversation. It's a huge gap for most places.
And the third force?
The third force is the sheer complexity of modern workflows.
Ah, this is interesting. So interpretation isn't just a standalone conversation anymore.
No, not at all.
Ah.
Now it's deeply integrated into all these digital and bureaucratic systems.
This is where so many organizations fall down, isn't it? The interpreter's work doesn't end when the client leaves the room.
Right. That conversation is now tied to case documentation, to eligibility steps, to follow-up calls, verification processes.
Back office workflows, digital ticketing systems.
All of it. Imagine a social services agency. The interpreter is in the intake meeting. But then that meeting generates 4 forms that need to be filled out, 3 follow-up emails, and everything has to be logged correctly in the case management system.
Often by a case manager who doesn't speak the language.
And if the interpreter isn't trained in that workflow, in documentation accuracy, the entire pipeline breaks. It creates huge delays, costly mistakes, and the client doesn't get the service they need.
This is why quality has to be, operationalized, not just talked about.
The solution isn't just better interpreters, it's a better system that supports them.
Which is exactly why we wanted to look at organization structure to meet this new integrated standard. Our sources pointed to how leading providers like Defrilex LLC are designed specifically to handle this modern complexity.
When you're looking at providers for these high-stakes environments, the real question is, are they giving you specialists or generalists? A company like Defrilex LLC, for example, they focus their entire roster on professionals with sector-relevant training: healthcare, court, legal, ASL, behavioral health.
So they're providing specialists who understand the liability landscape of the client.
Exactly.
And crucially, they address that workflow problem we just talked about.
They do. They prioritize what they call multilingual back office support because they recognize that's where most organizations struggle. It's where the biggest legal risk is often hiding.
So what does that back office support actually look like for someone listening, trying to map this to their own work?
It means the service goes beyond the call. It ensures the communication doesn't just fall apart after the conversation ends. So we're talking about ensuring documentation accuracy in the official record, providing case note support that meets all the regulatory standards, managing complex verification follow-ups.
So making sure the information gets from one department to the next without getting lost in translation.
Precisely. It's about that consistent, accurate handoff of information. Because if your support isn't geared for these integrated multi-step operations, the risk comes right back.
So if we boil this all down, credentialed interpretation isn't just a nice quality upgrade anymore.
No, it's a hard operational necessity. It's a risk management tool. It's a compliance strategy. It's a way to build trust with your community.
And with flow efficiency advantage when it's done right.
It's the new baseline for anyone operating in a regulated field.
So what does this all mean? It means the investment in this kind of credible multilingual support is what ensures organizations can stay compliant, confident, and genuinely connected. This isn't just a trend, it's the long overdue evolution toward legally defensible communication. And considering those complex multi-department workflows we just discussed, all those digital systems and back office processes, we want to leave you with a thought. What is the single weakest point in your organization's current multilingual documentation process? Where's that one moment deep in the bureaucracy where the lack of verified credentialing could lead to the absolute highest risk? Thank you for engaging in this deep dive. If you're looking to strengthen your own multilingual capacity and explore some of these integrated workflow solutions, we encourage you to connect with Defrilex LLC. You can see how they structure their services to meet these new standards. And we invite you to stay connected with us by subscribing to the Defrilex LLC YouTube channel and following us on LinkedIn and all of our social media pages. Please share this deep dive with others who need this knowledge. Until next time.